Hi, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And this is Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Milk and Honey, breast milk jewelry. Milk and Honey will make your breast milk into a special breast milk keepsake that you get to keep forever, even though you don't get to keep breastfeeding forever. Which might be good news for some people. But we'll hear more from our sponsor a little later. If you ever need anything, please head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check out our sponsor page. See if you can give them any of your business because they make this podcast possible. And while you're there, scroll down, enter your email, and we will send episodes straight to your inbox every week. And we are on Patreon, and we hope to see you there. Check the link at the top of the notes under this episode, wherever you're listening from. You can check out the various tiers for our mini podcasts, our extra ad-free episodes, our Revolution Parenting podcast episodes, and our Zoom hangouts where we hang out once a month with everybody. And hope to see you there. And we are still hosting our ongoing giveaway for people who leave reviews around the internet. So you can leave written reviews on iTunes or stars on Spotify or wherever you're listening from. If you're able to leave some kind of review, take a screenshot, send it to us, and we'll send you a goodie bag of podcast stickers and thank you for nursing in public cards. And also, we forgot to mention and talk about that we are going to be in Indianapolis.
The tour continues, folks.
We will be in Indianapolis at Babies and Bumps on June 23rd. That is a Sunday. If you are a badass in the Indianapolis area, send us an email at badassbreastfeedingpodcast@gmail.com. And hopefully we can get you a ticket and you can come see us.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So yeah, we hope to see you there. And now cool. Dianne has our review of the week.
Yes, and our review of the week says, "Oh, how I wish I had found this while I was pregnant. I discovered this wonderful show about a month postpartum, and it was so helpful and informative. I was having a rough go with breastfeeding and had had a difficult time with a local lactation expert, which I would love to know more about that one. But these ladies truly made me feel like I would be okay and would figure it out. Now, 3 months postpartum, and my baby and I are still going strong. Aww. Congratulations to you for figuring it out, especially with having a difficult time with a lactation expert. I hear that happen sometimes, and it always makes me sad because that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But you figured it out.
It's so frustrating. It's just really frustrating when that happens.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
It does, yes. And I'm so glad you found us. And I'm so glad that you figured it out and that you are going strong. And that is awesome. You are one strong little mama, because it can be really hard and frustrating when you feel like you're not getting the help you need. Oh my gosh. You just want to throw in the towel.
Well, yeah. Right. Yeah. Or you just assume that it's you and that it's not working out and you can't do it. When it's never you. It's never, ever you. Nothing is ever you. Nothing is ever your fault, ever. Ever in life at all. Just go through life saying that to yourself.
Yes.
Wasn't my fault.
You've heard it from Abby first, everyone. That is the way to go. But it is true. You didn't do anything. It's nothing on you. But it is really hard, right? When you're first starting, so hard.
I mean, my God. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know why some of us keep going. Like some of the things that people push through is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like when I think back to like shit that I went through with Jack, I honestly don't know if I would do that again. Of course, I know things more now and I know where to get help. So that's different. But like, I don't know. There's things that I just definitely probably wouldn't do again. Like I would definitely not tandem nurse again. And I'm so glad I did because I wanted to. I really, really wanted to. But man, that was hard. I don't know if I would be able to do it again.
I don't think I would have breastfed if I had the twins first.
Yeah.
If I had had my twins first, I don't think I would have. I'm amazed by people that do it. And I mean, I did it too, but they were definitely one of the main reasons I did breastfeed them was because I had already breastfed and I knew how important that was to me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had had them first, I don't think I would have considered it. I think I would have let my family talk me out of it.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you're right. The things that we do that just kind of like carry us through. It's just.
I mean, I guess that's like the survival of the species, right? It's like we don't know and we just keep going and we just keep doing. And of course, later on, we're like, oh, I'd never do that again. But we actually don't know if we were in the situation again. Like our instincts just make us like, why do we keep having babies? Even like it's insane.
It's just we are driven to do it.
It's like, yeah, my first birth was really terrible. It was like very traumatic. I almost died. And then my second birth, and it's like, what? Why is there a second birth?
I know people
because we just have to, like, yeah. I guess that's why we're here, right? Because we just keep keep
doing it,
keep having babies, keep doing it.
It's crazy. It really is.
Man, it is, and people are going to keep doing it. So let's make it easier.
Yeah, if we can.
Yeah,
let's definitely make it easier. That's what we're trying to do anyway.
Yeah.
Make it easier by giving you the information. I don't know if it makes it easier, but at least then you're prepared. And which makes it better when you're prepared.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So this kind of is funny, this conversation, because today we're going to talk about things you wish you knew.
It kind of ties in.
It does kind of tie in, right? Because things you wish you knew before you had your babies, before you decided to do this. Like, is there anything really specific that you wish you had known? You said you wish you hadn't tandem nursed.
I wish I had what?
You hadn't tandem nursed. Was there something about
no, I don't wish that I hadn't tandem nursed. I just wouldn't do it again. I'm glad that I did. I really wanted to. And it was in certain ways, it was just totally amazing to do it and see what my body was capable of doing. And it felt very empowering. But also it was so hard and I just wouldn't choose it again. I wish that I knew that I think this applies for my whole life. I wish I knew that the things that I was going through were going to end. Like, the newborn day, everything just felt so like huge to me. And I think it's probably because I have like a history of really extreme anxiety and I don't know, the way I was brought up with, just the kind of emotional instability made everything seem just so huge. And so I had no perspective. And I don't know. I mean, I guess nobody's got great perspective when they're in the beginning of those days because it's just, you're going through so many changes. It's like, it's hard to be objective. But I just wish I knew that like things were going to evolve and develop and change.
It is really hard to keep that perspective.
Yeah.
It really is. It's hard to keep that perspective when you're in the middle of some shit. It's just really hard to be like, oh, this will be over. I mean, I do try to tell myself that when I'm in the middle of something that's really hard, like that it's not going to last forever. And sometimes it makes me feel better and sometimes it doesn't, but it is hard to keep that perspective.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about it in terms of a baby, like you don't know, everything is so up in the air.
You don't know. Yeah. Maybe it is going to go on forever. Maybe. Yeah. And then you're just so isolated. I wish I wasn't so isolated, but then I also didn't want anybody around me. But I think that's also just like very cultural. Like we're so isolated. We just really rely on just being alone, and which is really just one giant cultural trauma response.
Right.
because this is never how humans have ever lived.
No.
We've always lived codependent with each other, and now we see that's like a dirty word, like relying on each other and needing other people. It's like, oh, you got to be independent. And not just you, but your baby too.
I know. Baby has to be independent.
Your newborn should be more independent.
They got to figure out how to do it on their own. Which I just will never understand that. I will never understand that thought process of your baby's got to figure it out.
Yeah.
To me, that's just craziness.
It is.
So
I
one
know
of the
you
things
made
that
a list. What was on your list?
I did. And what the first thing I made the first thing on my list is that taking a breastfeeding class is really important. And I don't remember. I remember taking some sort of class, barely remember it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it being that much of it didn't make that much of an impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think taking a class is so important. And people brush that under the rug. They really do. And I think a lot of times, like providers, I've heard providers say, oh, there'll be people at the hospital that are going to help you. Don't worry about it. You don't need to take time to take a breastfeeding class. Or people are really so hyper-focused on childbirth classes, which is also super important. But they kind of let go of the breastfeeding class because it's going to be natural. I'm just going to put the baby there and they're going to latch on and it's going to be fine. And nobody really considers taking the breastfeeding class. And it's so important for you to take one. I cannot stress that enough. It is so important to take a breastfeeding class.
I think it's just, I think it's for me. It was just, I was so worried about the birth that actually having the baby it was so abstract that I couldn't really think about. And especially if you've never had a baby before, you're just like, well, I don't, you just don't, there's no way to know that that's important, because the birth just seems so big. It seems so scary. And you're really focused on that. And if you miss, I almost wish, because I don't think there's any way around that. I don't think there's any way around people not being scared of birth. Like that's also a cultural thing that we are just so focused on that I wish breastfeeding classes, and maybe they are, I'm sure they are, offered after the baby's here. Like here's the baby's here. And like try to get these people to like an online class or, because now the baby's here. Now we can really focus on this. And of course it's important and it's better to do it ahead of time. But it's just not, people's heads aren't there.
No, they're not. They're not. And I wish they were more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's so much to know. Right. There's so much that you don't know about breastfeeding that you can at least learn. And when I'm teaching a breastfeeding class, a prenatal breastfeeding class, I'm always like, okay, if you remember nothing else from this class, remember that you're not supposed to have pain or, things like that I think are really important for people to know that they don't know and they don't realize is a thing.
Yeah.
And listening to a podcast, like if you're pregnant right now and you're listening, that is super helpful because you're able to get the information and that's really great. Having the information prior to having your baby is really, really important. But a lot of people, don't do that.
Well, and if you give birth in a hospital, there's just so many, it's like having a birth plan. A birth plan is like a list of all the things that could possibly go wrong and not happen. It's like, of course, you have your wishes. But every situation is so unique and is so individualized that then it's like, okay, well, it's here and here. Like for me, like, okay, well, I was induced. And like, yeah, you want to breastfeed? Sure, that's no problem. But you were induced and you're not making milk. So you should have formula. And I'm like, well, okay. Because I read in the book that I was supposed to avoid pacifiers. I read in the book that I was supposed to avoid formula, but then they didn't talk about like, well, what if I had my baby? What if I was induced and I wasn't making milk and my baby was starving. That like particular thing in there wasn't in there, which is not true.
Right.
But I didn't know that then. And the book didn't go through my little individual circumstance.
Right.
So then I'm confronted in the hospital with like, oh, well, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you don't know.
And then when you don't know, you just are like, okay.
You just go, yeah. I mean, and I've had people say to me, but I read all the books. Yeah. And I'm always like, but the baby didn't read the book. Right. The baby doesn't know.
Yeah. Right.
The baby has no idea. They're going to do their own thing. The books are not very specific to people's situations. And there's a very individualized process that happens here.
Right. And that's why I also think you should always have a doula.
Oh, yeah.
Because they do know. And they're not going to be losing their minds having a baby and have like all these hospital staff like telling you things. They're going to be able to be like, no, that's not what we're doing right now.
Right.
When you don't know.
Yeah. So I think it's really important. And if you're listening right now and you're pregnant and you don't have a lactation class in your area or a breastfeeding class in your area, reach out to me because we can see if we can get it covered by your insurance, because some insurances will cover prenatals and you can get a prenatal class covered for you. It is important to have some information going into the process.
Yeah.
It really is. It's important. The next thing is breastfeeding on demand from the start. That is something I wish I knew. And I wish everybody would know that breastfeeding on demand from the start is really important, because you might have it in your mind, but when you have your baby in a hospital, they're timing you, right? Every 3 hours. And you get that kind of stuck in your head that your baby needs to feed every 3 hours. And then when your baby is feeding more frequently than that or showing signs more frequently than that, you're like, oh, what is going on here? Why is my baby starving? Why am I not making enough milk for my baby? Because this baby's supposed to go 3 hours without feeding. I wish I knew, and I wish everybody knew, that babies sometimes will feed more frequently than every 3 hours. And that is very, very normal. And that is really good for your milk supply as well, when you're just feeding on demand and listening to your baby's cues. But it's hard when people around you are saying, oh, your baby's eating again. Why is your baby eating again? They shouldn't have to eat again. Your baby should only have to eat every couple hours. Not all the time. Not always. Not always.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wish
your baby is not really, your baby can't breastfeed too much.
Right.
It's not going to be like, oh my God, they're nursing too much. Like that's not, you don't, just let them be there.
I know. Yeah. And sometimes that is hard because sometimes that's not what you want. You want a break from this baby. And we get that too.
Yes. I remember not wanting to unlatch. It was just like he was sleeping, Jack like would be sleeping on my boob, and I would just so much not want to interrupt his sleep that I would like carry him latched to the bathroom and like one-handed pull my pants down and like do everything just like one-handed, because I was just so desperate for him not to like wake up again.
Like he's quiet. Leave him there.
Yeah. Oh God, just please don't wake up.
I know. We should probably take a break though before we go on.
Yes. Well, let's talk about milk and honey, breast milk jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
Today's episode is brought to you by Milk and Honey Jewelry. Milk and Honey is a keepsake jewelry company specializing in heirloom quality jewelry made with your own breast milk. And the ordering process is very simple. All you have to do is go to milkandhoney.jewelry to choose the jewelry style that you want. And they have rings and necklaces and pendants, bracelets. You'll get simple instructions for sending your breast milk to them. Milk and Honey preserves your milk and sets it in stone in a custom jewelry setting. They have rings, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, charms available. They also have the birthstone beads that everybody by now should know I have. Plus, they safely store your leftover breast milk in case you ever want to order again. They're a mom-owned business and run by a team of 8 women crafting every single piece of jewelry by hand from scratch in-house. Over the last 6 years, since they've been in business, they have handcrafted breast milk jewelry for over 16,000 customers. Head to milkandhoney.jewelry and use code BADASS for 20% off of your order. That's milkandhoney.jewelry, and that's code BADASS. And what was I going to say about this? I can't remember now. Maybe it'll come to me.
Okay.
I don't know. This is what I was going to say. Because some people are so queasy about sending their milk just out into the world. And they're like, where's this going? Is this person going to send it back? And you hear these horror stories about people like send their breast milk off and then like never hear from the person again. This is a reputable company. We can vouch for it. You can trust them. So you can check them out, milkandhoney.jewelry.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you can head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check out all of our sponsors and the promo codes and all of our other episodes. We're coming up on 400. I wonder if we should do something for our 400th episode.
Oh, maybe we should.
We have like a big giveaway or something. Oh, big giveaway. I don't know. That's what I can ever think of as a giveaway. I have like stuff in my closet. I have like carriers.
We should give something away.
I have some stuff.
Yeah.
And then you can also at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com find out information, sign up for your own online lactation consultation with Dianne.
Yes. And see if I take your insurance because I have the ability to take more insurances now. So finding out if we can take your insurance is key. And definitely, all you got to do is let me know and we'll get you started with the process.
Right.
So the next thing is that your baby's going to be feeding around the clock. That is something I wish I knew because I think we go into this going, the baby's just going to eat every 3 hours. Like I was saying about the feeding on demand thing, baby's going to eat every 3 hours and you're going to have this break and then they're going to, like it's going to be normal. Like they're going to sleep several hours overnight and your baby's going to be feeding around the clock. Yeah. And that is just something I wish that I knew and that I wish people knew. That is normal process for babies. Babies do not go long periods of time without feeding.
No, they do not sleep through the night. They're going to be up all night. There's nothing wrong. They cannot go long periods of time, in a deep sleep. They're not going to do that.
And we shouldn't want them to.
No. And they don't sleep in the corner, like I swear every TV show you ever watch, they have a baby, but where is it? It's like, oh, it's in the crib, or it's sleeping over there in the corner in the bassinet. Yeah, I don't know. My baby never did that. No. There was no sleeping ever, unless he was latched on to me. But they don't act like that. They require attention 24/7. And there is no break. Unless you work that out with your partner or whatever. For them to hold the baby while you shower. That's also a thing I wish I knew. I wish I knew I could put the baby down. He could fuss, he could cry, and I could finish what I was doing. Yeah. And I was not abusing him.
Right.
Because I freaked out every freaking peep that Jack made. Like I would stop my showers. I would just like freak out every time he was crying and be like, oh my God, I have to pick him up. Something's wrong. And we would barely even put him down. We would take turns eating. We wouldn't even put him down to eat. And it's like, I wish I just knew to chill out. Again, I don't chill out very well. I just wish I knew that I could put him down, that they could, they can fuss, they can do all these things, and like they're going to be okay. You're there. You can take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. There was one time I remember when Nathan was a baby. So when Nathan was a baby and we had to move from North Carolina to New York, we had to stay with my parents for like 6 months until we bought a house. So Nathan was brand new. And I remember sitting at my mother's table trying to eat something.
Mhm.
And I could hear him fussing down the hall. Just started, not crying,
Mhm.
but you could hear that he was waking up from a nap or whatever.
Yeah.
And just kind of starting to fuss in the room that we had put him in. And you could hear him starting to fuss. And I was like, oh, and I was like half eating and
Mhm.
my mother goes, he's not crying. You can let him go. He's
Yeah.
fine. And I was like, all right. But that was super helpful for me
Yeah.
because I really had felt like, oh no, he's starting to fuss or he woke up. I got to go get him right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But instead I was able to like finish eating and
Right.
then go
And
get
this
him
is
because he was fine.
Yes.
He was
And
fine.
it's really important to understand that this is not about not wanting to spoil your baby. This is not about don't respond to them right away because then they'll get used to it. That is not what we're talking about.
Mm-mm.
That is bullshit. There is no such thing as spoiling a baby. There is no such thing as responding too much to your baby. That is not a thing. We're talking about you are in the middle of taking care of yourself, in the middle of doing something, and you know the baby's safe. You know the baby's in a crib or in a bassinet or in, wherever they are while you're doing whatever you're doing. We're just saying that you are allowed to finish doing what you're doing, and it's not harming the baby.
Exactly.
And I remember my friend told me a long time ago. I didn't even have kids yet, but it really stayed with me. She had a baby really young. She was like, I don't know, 19 or 20 when she had her baby. And she the baby was crying one day. He was just crying and crying and crying, was like just not, just inconsolably crying. And she called her mom, like she was shaking. She was so upset. Like she was on the verge of just losing her mind. And her mom was like, take the baby, put him in the other room, put him in the crib, and shut the door.
Mm-hmm.
Go in the other room and calm yourself down. And like that really stayed with me. It's like, yeah, like the most important thing in that moment was for her to not flip her lid and like shake the baby or something.
Right.
And it's like it's like you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of these babies. Otherwise, you're going to come undone. Like I really feel like I just unraveled. And I was just I was just in pieces. And like that's not helping anybody.
Right.
And I really liked how she said that. It was just, just take care of yourself, take care of the situation. And that you don't have to be, close to doing something, terrible. You can literally finish eating. You can finish your shower.
Right. And the baby is fine. Baby is fine.
They're fine. They're cry. They just don't. That's all they know how to do is cry. So like that's just what they do. They're just they might even just be like, oh my God, I woke up. Ah,
exactly. Yeah.
Like,
I'm awake.
They don't know how to be like, yoo-hoo.
Yeah.
They just cry. So they're okay.
Yeah. It's totally fine. It's totally okay. That kind of brings me to another one. I wish I knew that my baby was going to be fussy at some point in time.
Oh, yeah. That's because
like you have those times of day where they are super fussy. And I didn't know that was normal, that was just like, oh, this is just a normal thing. They're just letting off steam. They're just fussy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And usually it's in the evening. Yeah. And they're cluster feeding. I wish I'd known what cluster feeding was.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. And
that comes to that whole newborn behavior that we just don't understand. And we have, episodes on that normal newborn behavior, normal newborn sleep patterns, because we don't know what they are.
Right. You don't. And then you have this baby and you're like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
I remember being so freaked out that Jack, I could not put him down. Like he would not go. I couldn't put him down. Like he had to be, if he was going to sleep, he had to be latched on. And I know some babies are more chill. Like Exley was a little bit more chill. He would sleep in the bassinet, but not Jack. And I was just like, oh my God, something's wrong with him. Like I would be Googling it. And then of course I would get all these things like, don't make eye contact with them and do all these weird things. And it was so weird. I just felt so weird. I'm like, something's wrong with this baby. The internet wants me to ignore him. while he's fussy and I'm trying to put him down. Like, I just didn't, it's like, no, it's normal for them. That's their comfort place. Like, if they're not latched on, it's very possible that they will be uncomfortable. They'll be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That, they're just going to cluster feed. They're going to be fussy if they're not latched on. They're going to be, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with this baby? And then you're thinking like, oh, they're starving. Yeah. I don't know if I ever thought that they were starving. I think I was always just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like what, this baby was fine
like,
2 hours ago.
Problem? Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're like melting down. But it's just like when you have a toddler that melts down, except they can tell you what they're melting down about. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
Whereas your baby can't tell you.
Well, and just imagine, just think about the things that if you've not had a toddler, it's going to be really hard, but it's also going to be really hilarious because they melt down about the weirdest things. They're like, Exley had a meltdown in the car one time because Jack had more horses out of his window than he had out his window. And, they'll get mad about, how, I don't know. They just get there. It's just like the weirdest things. And so think about how that, and you're like, oh, you're just a little toddler. You don't know how silly that is. But then take them back even farther into earlier in their development. They can't talk. Think about all these weird things that, they saw something out of the corner of their eye, something rubbed their hand. There was some sort of something. We don't even know. They don't even know.
No, they don't even know. They're just like melting down. Their little nervous system can only handle so much activity. And
they're not even upset. They're like literally physically just crying to get it out.
Yeah. Yeah. We overload them and then that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And we go, whoa, what are they fussy about?
Yeah, and then we go, what's the problem? We were at the mall and we turned on all the battery operated toys and in your face. Why aren't you happy? They're like, ah!
Oh my God.
Think about how you feel at the grocery store. And I don't know if anybody else feels this way at the grocery store, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
I know. Yeah,
There's so many people
too.
and sounds. And why is the music so loud?
I don't know what I need to get.
Why is the music so loud at the grocery store, for crying out loud?
It's insane.
I don't get it.
I know.
But yeah, imagine the baby.
Yeah, it's too much for them. So if you haven't listened to our normal newborn behaviors episodes yet, definitely check those out because will help you a little bit to understand a little bit more about what's going on with your baby. I wish I knew how important skin to skin was because I had no idea about that. And I'll give myself a little bit of a break there, not knowing because it wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. But they talk about it in the hospital. They have you go skin to skin with the baby, but they don't talk about how important it is to continue to do skin to skin when you're home with your baby. It can really help to regulate them and to calm them and to help with breastfeeding. And it's really important in those early days and beyond. There is no like cutoff date for skin to skin. It is something that is really, really good for you and your baby to continue to do. And I had no idea about that. Yeah. I really didn't.
No, I didn't either. Yeah.
And that's something that's important.
Too. I remember turning skin to skin down too, because I was just like, I don't know. I don't feel like it. Well, she was like, do you want to try skin to skin? I was like, no, I don't know. No. Because I didn't know that was like a good thing, good, important thing. I don't know.
Right. You just didn't know. And who would have thought that something so simple is really that powerful too?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And you're just like, no, but it is, and I can't stress enough that I totally get it. And I'm sure Abby does too. If you're feeling like, if you have times where you're feeling like, I just don't want this baby on me right now.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I totally get that. But when you can do it, it's really good. It's really good for you.
Yeah. And it's like, it can take the place of a lot of that, like bouncing around and rocking and shushing. It's like sometimes if you just lay down and put them on your chest, they will settle sometimes. And so, it can be a little bit more restful for you too. You can just like scroll on your phone and stuff and take a break.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
That's how I was. That's why I wanted to breastfeed for so long. I was just like, oh my God, if I can just latch them on, I can sit down. My goal is always to sit down. I'm like, oh, just come on, just nurse.
Just be
latch
quiet.
them on, and then I can just sit down.
Yeah. And my last thing is that I wish I knew that gassy babies was a normal thing.
Oh my God.
It's normal for your baby to be gassy.
Speaking out about that. I remember that too.
It's nothing that you ate. I remember going, my mother's like, well, what did you eat? She would always say that. And I didn't know any different because I had no idea what I was doing. So I was like, well, I ate this, this, and this. And she's like, well, it was probably that. It was probably those peppers you ate. And I was like, fine, then I guess I'll just never be able to eat anything again.
Right,
like it was totally, but now I know, and my mission in life to make sure everybody knows that what you're eating is not making your baby gassy. It's just the way babies are. It's just the way they are.
Their body does not know how to push the gas out, and it bothers their stomach. Don't worry about it. It'll come out eventually. Don't worry.
It will. It'll come out eventually.
You don't have to stick any weird things up their butt. You don't have to. I know. I told you there was that one when I went to the baby conference a long time ago. There was this invention that like you could stick this straw looking thing inside of your baby's butt, and the gas would come out and it would whistle.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
like a windy or something like that. I think it's called.
You do not need that. You do not need you don't need all those gas drops. You don't, no, just, it'll come out.
Yeah. It's
frustrating
totally because
it's annoying because
want to help your baby.
Yeah. You can lay them on their back and do a little bicycle with their legs. Sometimes that helps.
They get it out.
It'll come out.
But we blame ourselves for it. It's obviously something we did to make them gassy when really it's just their system.
I was always just like, I need an intervention. Like, what should I do? I need to intervene. My thing was always like, oh my God, what do? I need to do something. And like for a lot of stuff, there's nothing to do. It's just like, this is just what's happening and it's going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
It'll pass like gas eventually.
Yeah, it will. And everything will be fine. It'll pass and everything will be fine.
The end.
Just remember that. Yes. And that's it.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.